Professor, everybody wants to take their children to school. Of the manifesto prongs, the pillars of your manifesto, let's talk a bit about education. From a very subjective standpoint, I've been a teacher for almost 30 years of my life, so I'm into education, as Americans would say. What are you going to do for the education of this country?
First of all, let's give credit to President Kibaki, and a lot of people have criticized him and said, well, you brought millions of children to school and look at the quality has gone down. But this thing was always a two-pronged process. The first stage was mop the kids, bring them into classroom, otherwise you lose them out there. Then the second thing, which is now the next stage, is to build the quality. And for me, I would like to do three things. Number one, I would like to make sure that the infrastructure, educational infrastructure in terms of primary schools to secondary schools, first of all, are adequate, but that they are standardized. So that a kid who goes to...
I find it strange that you're talking about buildings. As a teacher myself, I think the idea of a good teacher is a good one to start off from. Why is that not your priority? Good teachers, well paid. You're saying lovely buildings, structure,
I said three things.
Right.
I said three things.
Okay, sorry.
I said that build the infrastructure.
Do forgive me.
Because where we are now, we have actually a classified education system.
Right.
That's unacceptable because you are condemning some kids to mediocre education quality and others doing very well.
Right.
I would like quality of classrooms and large standardized nationalized system.
Right.
Then number two, hire enough teachers. Right now we have a shortage.
Yes, but last time we heard about standardized teaching, when foreign governments tried to help us to buy books so that everybody could have them, we ate all the money. That's my recollection. I read my newspapers.
No.
Maybe it was after your time.
John, for a person like you,
right.
Please don't just rely on what's reported in the media. I think for yourself, I would like for you actually to go to the Ministry of Education. Get hold of the report. Get hold of the report, the audit report about the loss of funds and what actually happened. We even presented a report to Parliament. It is available. I don't want us to get into it now.
Yes.
But what I want us to say, what I'm trying to say is that bring in teachers. Right now we have a shortage of about 100,000 teachers. And honestly,
nobody wants to be a teacher. Nobody wants to be a teacher. In
the
bad old days, James, a teacher used to turn up in the village and was given a cuckoo to take home. But nowadays, the scum of the earth. So how are you going to change?
Because of society.
How are you going to change?
Because of society. Because we have trodden on our teachers. We've said teachers are not important.
And our nurses.
In fact, I used to ask the kids.
Yes.
Who would like to be a doctor? All the hands go up. Who would like to be a lawyer? All the hands go up. Who would like to be a teacher? And they laugh and they say, why? It's a very serious...
Well, for one reason, because they're very badly paid. Where would you get the money to pay them better?
Very true. And where do you get the money to pay the MPs 1 million shillings?
Professor...
And they want a set of package. And the minister told us there was no money to pay nurses, and the nurses went on strike for 1 month, and then suddenly he tells us 2.6 billion to send these guys home. Come on, there is money. It is just misallocation and misprioritization.
I do believe that in countries like Finland, for example, that are reputed to have the best system in the world,
yes,
they also have the most teachers are amongst the most highly paid members of society.
And I would
and they've all got PhDs like you.
I would like
there's no
every
PhD.
teacher.
There isn't a teacher with a PhD teaching in Moyale.
Right.
There isn't a PhD teacher teaching in Busia. There isn't one.
And I would like to actually build an incentive system that makes a teacher know that I can get a PhD and still deal with kindergarten.
So you're going to change salary scales?
We will harmonize salary scales according to the Constitution, because actually we have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, whose objective is to make sure we don't have guys taking home 1 million and others taking home 50,000. That's unacceptable. You can't have a teacher who goes to class at 8 in the morning and they grade kids and they stay overnight throughout the holidays, taking home like 30,000 a month, and then you have a fellow who spends 3 hours in Parliament and sometimes absent themselves, they go for 1 hour and out, paying 1 million shilling. It's unacceptable.
So
if
let's
you look
go
at
back.
the wage
You're touching
bill
on so much now. You're talking my government, my leadership, would be one of the things that you do, Professor, is to cut all ministers' salaries to the absolute minimum.
Including mine.
Including yours.
As president, I mean, I would like to earn a salary that I feel I'm not an outlier. I'm out of everybody. And I think that there is enough money.
These are policy decisions that you're telling people you will implement.
It's a policy decision which is already made by the Kenyan people. When we passed that Salaries and Remuneration Commission, we accepted the view that there was a lot of disparities. So we wanted to bring everybody together so that if you're a judge or a magistrate or a lawyer or a teacher, there is commensurate compensation for the work you do.
Slightly at a tangent. At this rate, would you be more than prepared to declare your wealth?
Yes,
as perhaps Martha Karua has recently. She's worth 56 million shillings. What are you worth?
I was the first one to do it, my friend.
Right.
On Citizen TV like last year.
Oh, so I forget.
I have very little actually, but enough.
Right.
Everybody says I have a home in Eldoret, which I built when I was a lecturer.
Right.
And I have a farm at home, which my dad gave me, and I built a house on it.
Right.
And then I have a plot in Karen, which I haven't even built yet, because money could only buy it.
Yes.
It's very, very expensive.
Yes.
Beyond that, I have 2 cars, and that's it.
Right.
And a fellow can go, that's probably the same range of about 40 to 50 million Kenya shillings, because, if you, depending on how the properties are assessed.
Thank you for declaring it in our forum.
Yes.
But in the time that remains, there were the 6 pillars. Let's go for health. You can't be around unless you're healthy. I'm going to look at, over to you, health. What is the Ole Kiyapi administration going to do? Kenyatta hospitals are going to operate wonderfully.
I would like to look at
clinics with medicines.
I would like to look at 3 things, very key things. Number 1, I would like to make sure that, again, the health infrastructure, health system is functioning, because right now it's a problem. Right. Functioning from the lowest dispensary.
You're saying this as if you're some sort of prophet who's saying this for the first time.
But we've been saying it, John. We've been saying it.
Right.
When I was a PS, I was always saying it, that we need a functional system.
Saying it. I'm talking about
and
action.
Doing what I could.
Action.
Let me tell you. Right now we are putting about 7% of the, 7% of the national budget into health. According to the Abuja Declaration, which African governments committed themselves to, including Kenya, we said that at least health sector should have about 15%. Now, given that we are now at 6%, I would like that in my government, we would move progressively so that by the end of 5 years, we are at least at around 12%. That way, you can be able to expand the facilities to cope with the population, because a lot of the hospitals, health centers that we have today were built in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, and the population has more than almost quadrupled. We need to increase that. We need to hire more doctors and nurses. So you must increase the budget progressively and also invest in a targeted manner, including, of course, consolidating. There's a lot of funding coming from outside. Right now, there's a very high dependency. For example, for HIV, AIDS, malaria, and TB, a lot of funding that is curing Kenyans is coming from outside. If those governments today said, we don't want to give you any more money, we're in trouble. We got to invest a little bit more so that we can cushion our population. So for me, look at the infrastructure, management system in hospitals, nurses and doctors, and at the same time, financing. Look at how you pull the resources from within, even from what the Mwananchi gives. There's something called cost sharing. And Mwananchi is not even complaining that they pay 200 shillings to go and get a service. They're complaining that they pay 200 shillings and they don't get the service. We would like to consolidate this.
Right, financing. Do you have any expectations of the Kenyan private sector? Because you're talking about external funding. What about rich people from within? Are they part of
the private sector? You see, this whole argument and discussion about
insurance. Let's see. After I want just a few words about ethnicity and communityism. So, private sector. Now, are you going to get rid of tribalism? But let's go to
private sector.
Yeah, private sector first.
I would like to work with the private sector to look at how we can broaden the range of providers, health providers,
right,
and then. Because, you see, there's a certain minimum, which is called, like universal health coverage. Not health insurance, universal health coverage, meaning that basic minimum provision of services to everybody. Beyond that, you can then, individual citizens are free, of course, to go and buy more and more, insurance services. But there is something that the society, the Kenyan people, collectively, through solidarity, must pool the resources to provide for everybody. And that must be well-developed infrastructure, services, drugs, medicines, and so forth.
Society in general, ethnicity, communityism, tribalism. People say we must get rid of tribalism by making wonderful slogans when in fact I have an inherent hatred of you that's embedded, taught to me by my mother and father.
Actually, the honest truth, John, is that you and I, for example, have never seen each other as tribes until we are sharing a resource. The problem with tribalism is that politicians have used it as a means of appropriating power and allocating resources. If we follow our constitution and implement it, and make sure that we share national resources in an equitable manner, and make sure that the public service is structured in a way that every Kenyan community is represented, and people can feel like they're a government of inclusion. Everybody can feel like they belong. I can assure you, within no time, Kenyans will not even be thinking of tribalism. It's tribalism because now we are going for elections, and you have to bring your tribe, and I bring mine, and another guy brings his, and we form an alliance, and then we win, and then it doesn't, and then it's a no-win. It's really a no-win game in this case. The population loses, and that is the reason why I rejected these alliances, because I knew where the population is, we are likely to follow our tribal inclinations. And it is you, the educated mass Kenyans, the middle class, the professionals, who must fight very hard to break this. How can we be educated and then go back and behave like unschooled boys and girls in the 21st century? For me, that's unacceptable. And leadership comes out of people who pioneer an idea, a value system, a value proposition. And it doesn't matter that it is understood quickly, but you must champion it and you must advance it, and one day people will say, hey, these guys are talking sense. Yeah. Are we going to change Kenya? Suddenly, no. But we have to have champions, and I would like you to be one of them.
Oh, I'll take up the challenge, but for the moment, James Legisho, Ole Kiyapi, thank you very much.
Thank you.